Joe, I just had to turn on the AC in here.
You're hot?
In the basement. Well, I got hot all of a sudden, and you know why?
Oh, what happened?
Because I just watched that dadgum Baby Gum trailer. Baby Girl. Sorry.
Oh.
I just watched that dadgum Baby Girl trailer.
Oh.
And it got real hot in here.
With Miss Nicole Kidman.
I'm going to have to bring a chaperone to City Walk to see this thing.
Now, this is the film, A24 movie.
Yes.
Nicole Kidman plays a high-powered CEO who starts having...
Emphasis on the O, baby.
She's careful.
The big O.
Careful there. No, but she starts having this salacious little romance with a young male intern of sorts,
played by Harris Dickinson, who
just
is like Bill Skarsgård's The Crow.
Saucy
in real life.
young man who's just, rizzing her up, as the kids would say. And man, oh man, it's gonna get spicy.
It's gonna get spicy. The trailer is hinting, is suggesting, but I've heard from reviews
saucy.
that this thing gets wild.
No, Nicole Kidman was like, I didn't think I should have done it, but I'm glad I did, or whatever she said. But I think it's going to be just just like a saucy affair.
And this is directed by Helena Rain, who made Bodies, Bodies, Bodies in 2022.
Helena Rain, who's
now she's falling up with some more
Bodies,
Bodies.
I love Bodies. People like her earlier European films. We always say on this show, we always shout out her work in the theater. I'm a fan. Baby Girl, I'll tell you what, the trailer was like fine, whatever, but like I just know there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow.
The trailer is fine.
It's
whatever.
a movie where Nicole Kidman
the highlight
has sex with a younger man.
The highlight is when he makes her drink milk at the bar.
Yep.
That was when I was like, oh yeah.
She's like, who got this milk? Who got this milk for me? And she's
I got
like,
it for you, and
I got it for you.
Drink it now. And drink that milk, baby girl.
My sex thing is you drink that milk.
Drink that milk at the bar.
I don't really want it. It doesn't pair with my meal.
She just shrugs and goes, and drinks it.
She just drinks it. She's like, it's easier than fighting with you, kid. I'll just drink it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's got her number. He's gonna make her show her CEO face.
Do you think he's the baby girl or she is?
He calls her. I think it's her, because the whole thing is like he is like, she wants to be controlled and humiliated, I think, or to some degree. But there's also like a fun suggestion that they're kind of they're not like, it's not like 50 Shades of Grey, where it's like this guy is like a master of S&M and he has his domain and his dungeon.
I love that.
This seems to be like they're going to kind of find their way through the dynamics of a S&M kink heavy relationship and see how that goes. I'm excited. Do you think we see a Best Actress nom for Nicole Kidman? I will say right now, Vanity has her. Variety has her in the second tier, like next to Demi Moore in The Substance and Cynthia Erivo and Wicked. So like just missing out on the top 5. But like,
do you have the top 5 right there?
I could go find them, but they're all like sort of more prestige-y sort of roles. It's like Tilda Swinton in the Almodovar, so on and so forth. But they've got Nicole Kidman and Baby Girl on the second tier.
They'll have a big old campaign for her to be it.
What do you think?
This movie comes out Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I think probably not, because it's a saucy one, but it is Nicole Kidman, so, and she's like daring and being brave and doing the thing, and it's sexy, so maybe.
Their top 5 is Angelina Jolie in the Maria Callas biopic, which is just, I guess, just like a default nomination.
People like that.
Do an Edith Piaf. You do Maria Callas, you immediately get a nomination. Tilda Swinton, Mikey Madison in Nora.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here, and Carla Sofia Gascon in Amelia Perez.
Well, then don't sleep on Nicole Kidman at all. Actually, I changed my mind.
Yeah,
she definitely is going to get nominated. You heard it here first.
Something from the second tier will sneak in just for like name.
It'll be Baby Girl. It's not going to be The Substance. That's going to be The
Substance. June Squibb and Thelma.
No, it's not going to be that.
That's a Golden Globe.
It's never going to be that.
Yeah, because I guess his 3 daughters is submitting Natasha Lyonne for supporting, I think. So I think that's
Nicole. The Amelia Perez woman isn't going to get in, or maybe she's the other lock. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Brett, it's upon us. I can feel the seasons changing.
Yeah.
It's still hot, but I'm drinking a pumpkin spice latte. It's happening. It's the award season is here, folks. It's coming.
And we're going to dig into like award season predictions, odds, things like that in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for more of that. But tonight, this week on Movies Baby, ladies and gentlemen, we finally saw Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, and we didn't even have to ask Adam Driver a question. We're going to tell you what we think. We're going to review the new DreamWorks animation, The Wild Robot, and then in the second hour, we're going to rank Coppola's entire filmography from worst to first, from Dementia 13 to Rumblefish to Jack, all your favorites, to Twixt, The Godfathers, Apocalypse Now, Dracula.
All of them, baby.
And you know how we do it. I have my list, Joe has his list, but together we have to come up with one list, the official Movies Baby ranking, and early indicators are, based on text back and forth, this is going to be a bloodbath. I don't know how we're going to get to one list. It's going to involve some intense compromising, deal making, possibly threats on each other's, lives. It's going to take a lot. And it's going to get down and dirty, and you're not going to want to miss it. And if you want to watch it live tonight or on replay, you go over to patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You sign up right there. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. We've got so much good stuff over there for movie lovers. And right now, if you're watching live, for another hour, you can go vote on our poll this week, which is your favorite movie directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Voting is open on that till 7 p.m. Pacific time. And that poll, like all of our polls, is open to everyone. So go over to patreon.com. Just sign up for free. Sign up for a 7-day free trial. Just get in. Put both feet in, see what the water's like, and then you can decide. But just sign up one way or the other so you know what we're doing over there and you're supporting the show. Joe, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
And Margo, can you roll that theme song? There it is. Oh. Even after this week, I still can't get enough movies.
No, I can't.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you? Do you have it bad too? I think that you do. Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. And then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who the Philly movie freak." There he is.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Oh, it's true. I've got it bad too. Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at every movie theater all over town.
Every single one.
Cut to black, roll credits. Whoa, baby, I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to. Look,
Hi.
The Georgia movie dog. Dog.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't. Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break down the latest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. Hollyweird, some people say. My name is Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with my friend and partner, Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! Rough loss this weekend, Joe, in Tuscaloosa. I don't know if you saw that.
I heard.
In what many are calling the greatest college football game of all time.
I didn't watch.
But that's cold comfort when you're
Was it good?
driving home to Athens with your first regular season L since November 7th, 2020. It was a very good game, and we played our hearts out after a terrible start. And thus ends 42 regular season wins in a row.
Okay.
Joe, what a record. A mind-boggling achievement. But we're not here to talk about college football. We're here to talk Hollywood and the almighty dollar, baby. Margo, show me the money. And, of course, I'm talking about last weekend's box office returns. There we go. Yes. All right, so Beetlejuice finally dethroned. Everyone thought it was going to happen last week. But last week it beat out Transformers 1 still beating out Transformers 1 a week later. But The Wild Robot from DreamWorks Animation, distributed by Universal, our new number one this week, Joe. Our new number one, making 35.8 million, 60 million worldwide on a $78 million budget. So off to a very good start for The Wild Robot. A solid opening. It also exceeded expectations. They were projecting it at like 24 to 30. But it wasn't. Everyone's considering this a success, and it is a success. It's not the ravenous appetite though that we've seen for animation this year.
But
Inside Out 2,
it's
Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda
it's original.
4. That's it.
It's not based on another. It's not a sequel.
It's original and time of year. Summer animated movies obviously always going to do better because you're looking for something to do with the kids. So anything that gets pushed into sort of August, September is always at a disadvantage against the summer movies. But overall,
nothing to sneeze at.
No, based on the budget, this is a success. This will make profit. And like you said, it's tough for original animated IP to cut through. That's why Pixar went back to Inside Out 2 this year, because they're, when they're trying to start new franchises, the last couple of films didn't do so well. So congrats to Wild Robot. I did think it was going to do better though, because it had such a good marketing campaign. They were putting that pull quote, greatest DreamWorks movie everywhere, all over the place, which is a great pull quote. The marketing gave you the sense that you were in store for more of like a Pixar style movie. It gets best picture buzz, makes you cry like a baby, all the stuff that people love these days with the Pixar movies. It seemed very reminiscent of like WALL-E, Iron Giant, which wasn't a success when it came out, but has since, gotten cult classic status and everybody loves it. So I honestly, I kind of thought Wild Robot was going to do a little bit better than this. I thought it was going to have like a surprise big opening, but sort of like a modest success out of the gate.
Yeah. Lupita's the main character. So it's, another good movie opening. She also led/didn't lead, Quiet Place Part 1.
Yep.
So, another notch of a win, but again, not a resounding Lupita's opening movie's huge, and it's all about Lupita, unfortunately.
And I do want to say, relative to September, this is the 10th biggest September opening ever. So September is, tends to be like a low month in between the summer blockbusters and the real deep into award season movies. So relative to the time it was released, it being original, this is successful. This is great, and the positive reviews should help it maintain momentum over the next couple of weeks, because we don't have another big animated movie coming out until Moana 2 in late November. So I think Wild Robot's going to have a nice little run here. A movie that did not have as good of an opening. We've known it for months. It's the writing's been on the wall, but it was finally confirmed this weekend. Megalopolis bombed big time. 4 million domestic, 6 million worldwide on a production budget of $136 million. This is, I thought Kevin Costner had it bad with Horizon. This is, that's a pretty massive.
It's tough.
Dud.
It's a lot.
Financially.
It's a financial dud. I bet secretly, despite everything we know about Coppola and his enigmatic dreams of a cinematic utopia and how he went to all lengths to create and accomplish and make Megalopolis, and all of the challenges it had getting created and coming out, I bet still, with all of the it's not going to make any money, he's still 4.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
It was projected
whole thing
for
is
5 to 7.
I don't care.
It didn't even make its own projections.
I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about the art for the past 20 years and all of the. It's I bet still, even privately in his heart, before he went to bed, he was couldn't have squeezed out 6. 6 for Megalopolis. Here's the thing. 10. We're
gonna be celebrating Coppola for a lot of things tonight. And one thing, one constant in Coppola's career is when he goes for it, he goes all the way, baby. He goes all the way. And I do want to. He knew this was not going to be a financial hit. I'm sure he was hoping for more than a 4 million opening.
I think in his head he was well, it's going to do 12.
It's going to do at least 12, right? Yeah.
I'm going to lose 100, but I'm not going to lose 130.
You're going to lose basically all of it.
He's going to lose. He's going to lose all of it.
In fact, this stat is very interesting. This is the only movie in the history of movies, there's only one movie with a budget over 120 million that did worse than Megalopolis in the history of movies, which was a movie I literally never heard of, Doug Liman's Chaos Walking in 2022.
I don't know.
Which did 3 million opening weekend.
Doug.
But first of all, fuck you, Doug Liman. This is Coppola's award. You cannot take this from him.
Thank
and
you.
Second, Chaos Walking came out like early 2022, like pre-vaccine pandemic. So like it was just never they just dumped it because they had no choice. So I'm going to say that is disqualified and that Coppola, come on down, baby. Get your award, you wild man. The only, the lowest performing movie ever with a budget over $120 million, Megalopolis. Congratulations, you did it. And I'm proud of you for that and for a lot of other things we're going to talk about tonight.
Some guys buy fancy cars. Some guys, they buy a yacht.
This dude.
This man,
bought
this madman,
Megalopolis.
he bought himself a DVD of the movie called Megalopolis. And he can put it on his DVD collection. He can watch it.
He can have it at the house.
He can have it at the house.
He wants to.
Whenever his friends come over,
hey,
he can
give
ask
me a
him,
copy of that DVD
do you want to watch it?
I'd like that option to watch it whenever as well.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into, because this is also not, whether it's bad news for Coppola, who knows?
Who knows?
We know
We don't know.
he's operating on a different plane at this point in his career. It's definitely bad news for Lionsgate. Their very bad year just got even worse. Before we get into that, because that's a conversation I want to have, I want to quickly also shout out Saturday Night, Jason Reitman's real-time retelling of the pilot episode of SNL. We've been talking about this movie for a couple weeks now. It went into limited release last weekend in just 5 theaters, only 5 theaters. It averaged $53,000 per theater. That's the second biggest per theater of the year behind Kinds of Kindness. And you usually see this with, movies like this that are they're indie, they're art house. They're going to have a small but passionate fan base that is going to max out these limited opportunities to see them. But with Saturday Night, it feels like it might have more wide release potential than Kinds of Kindness does. I mean, it's about SNL. It's got some recognizable young faces in it. Jason Reitman has made, sort of indie sleeper hits before. When this thing goes wide release on October 11th, what do you think, Joe? Are we looking at a pretty good box office day for Saturday Night? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're looking at a really nice box office day for Saturday Night. The reviews have been great. The young cast is going to do their social media thing. It's the 50th year anniversary of Saturday Night Live. And, the Eras tour was like the biggest thing in the history of music, Brett. People are basic to their core, and they love it, and they are little basic piggies. They're going to slobber up Saturday night.
Great. The story, you're right. The story is there for a really nice marketing campaign. It's SNL's 50th anniversary. What do you think? Do you think Rachel Sennett hosts SNL this year? Do you think they do like a tie-in
Wow, do you
thing?
think she's that?
Because Io hosted last year.
Oh, really?
I was big, but like that's not like out of the realm of possibility.
Yes, that's a great.
I guess my bigger question is, does SNL lean into some cross-promotion for this? Because this is a Sony movie. It's not in the NBC Universal family. So I think for Lauren, this is probably just a competitor. This is just, he doesn't even...
Who's to say? Maybe getting Rachel on because the movie's coming out is just still what they would do regardless of all of that. But I wonder if there's a little bit more thought about SNL 50 and the guardrails and keeping things at bay.
They just take the free publicity and call it a day, but they're not going to like...
Rachel can host next year.
Yeah, they're not going to do like cross-promotion.
Right.
Also, I think, Io has the bear. Rachel needs like a bigger... Senate needs a bigger thing. She needs a bigger thing.
I think
she'll get it, but she needs a bigger thing.
Maybe it's Saturday night.
Now let's talk about.
She's gonna have her HBO show, Brett. Like she'll have.
That's right. That'll be what it is. Yeah, that'll be what.
She's gonna make the next Girls.
Yes. Let's talk about Lionsgate and the worst year ever for a production company in the history of Hollywood, which is saying something. Now, Joe, we've been talking about this for a while now, but finally this week, it's real because guess what happened? The freaking legacy media finally started covering this story. Here are some headlines from the past week, Joe. In Slash Film, Lionsgate is having its worst year ever at the box office. Here's why that's concerning. Collider, Lionsgate's box office flop streak continues, and something called Puck. Can Lionsgate recover?
I'm a Puck member.
Oh, you're a Puck member. What is Puck?
Oh, it's like a cool journalism website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Good for Puck.
Yeah.
Can Lionsgate recover from an epic run of mega flops? Joe,
It's the good article.
how long have I been beating this drum on Lionsgate? And people online were telling me I'm overreacting. They're going to be fine. Everything's cool. For months, I've been saying, this is bad, y'all.
Brett,
this is like bad.
Brett, the people online can jump in a lake because you've been right the entire time.
Thank you. And we might be getting into, I don't know, we've been talking about, is Lionsgate going to sell? Is it going to get that far? And that we did get some actual news out of Lionsgate, which I'll tell you in a second. But they do still have this amazing back catalog, John Wick, Saw, Twilight, Hunger Games, etc. And it looks like next year they're going to be leaning on that back catalog hard in order to make up for this big loss this year. Because next year's scheduled releases from Lionsgate are all like sequels, reboots, that kind of stuff. So they'll probably right the ship, but they're going to have a big asshole to dig themselves out of. Joe, listen to some of these stats. And sorry, can I see that graphic one more time? I'm so sorry. You had it up forever, and then I went away from it. So Lionsgate has had 13 releases this calendar year. None of these 13 releases. That's a lot of movies for a studio to come out within a year.
Yeah, they have 13 cracks.
Not a single one of these movies, Joe, has gone over 50 million at the worldwide box office.
What?
That's not a single one of their movies. Their highest performing movie this year is Strangers Chapter 1. Not a single one of these movies has gone over 50 million at the worldwide box office. And based on what they're used to,
that's the worst out of 13 movies.
13 movies. And I went back just a year ago to 2023. Look at what they did last year in 2023. They had 2 movies over 300 million. John Wick 4 and the Hunger Games reboot. And in total, their total roster last year made well over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. They don't have a single movie over 50 this year. And they've had down years before, but usually when they have a down year, they're only releasing like 5 or 6 new movies, and there's not a bunch of like bigger budgeted movies. It's sort of like they just strategically agreed to have a sort of down year for new releases. You know, that's usually when they have their down years. But this year they went for it. And their only successful movies, following a trend we've seen across the spectrum this year, their highest earners were some of their lowest budgeted movies. I mean, Strangers Chapter 1 had one of their lowest budgets at $8.5 million and is their highest earner of the year. Now, I did the numbers on this, Joe. I ran the numbers. I crunched them hard. And I'm about to give you an apocalyptic picture of a film studio circa 2024. So the movies they released this year in total made $283,602,633 at the worldwide box office so far. Those movies in total had a production budget of $488 million, okay? Now, the prevailing wisdom is that you double the production budget to get your break-even point, because the production budget doesn't include marketing, distribution, et cetera, et cetera. So the common knowledge or wisdom is just double the production budget, and that's the point you need to get to make profit. Now, that's not always true, and there's fluctuations depending on how much was spent on marketing, but that's roughly the case. So I did that, Joe. And based on that equation, the movies that Lionsgate has released this year so far have collectively lost $692 million.
That is really bad.
I'm sorry, that's bad. I don't mean to laugh. That's bad.
Look, I know how hard it is to make a hit, right?
Yes, no.
It's fucking hard.
Yes.
But we're not saying a hit. We're saying, can you make a movie over $50 million?
Yes.
Global.
Yes. And like Borderlands, Crow, Megalopolis, the Halle Berry,
Never Let Go.
Just like
I know,
massive flop after flop after flop.
Miller's Girl
and
flop.
A couple Miller's
has
Girl.
Jenny Ortega in it.
I mean, it didn't have a budget, but still, that could have been a surprise hit.
Everybody else made it work.
Yeah.
You know, like there are things they could have done. They really dropped the ball, and
they had that horrible Megalopolis like fake trailer thing.
How dare they?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Therefore, it's no surprise that they were the first studio to announce a partnership with this AI firm, Runway. So they announced a couple weeks ago, Lionsgate, because they're falling off a cliff. They had to come out to save their, quarter or their report or whatever. And they announced that they're going to be the first studio to partner with an AI tech company called Runway that's going to create proprietary AI movie-making technology, where they're going to be able to consolidate a lot of elements of pre-production by cutting out things like storyboard editors and some of the other creative pre-production elements, and use AI to like do this part of their workflow at Lionsgate Studios. It's going to reduce cost. It's going to save the studio. It's going to be all this. So, on one hand, that is incredibly disappointing that a studio, after the whole entire strike and everything we've been talking about, would so shamelessly and brazenly work with an AI company to lower costs. But on the other hand, this is just the first one. Every single studio is going to come out with their version of this in the next year. Just when is it financially or politically, like from a PR perspective, advantageous or least disadvantageous for them to announce this technology? So, it's just no surprise that Lionsgate was the first. That's how in dire straits they are.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the other side of that coin is that this week they did like a sort of soft round of layoffs, or they're sort of testing the waters on layoffs, because apparently they offered all of their employees this week. Lionsgate offered all of their employees a voluntary buyout, aka severance, as the studio restructures, and they're citing a disrupted business environment, aka all of our movies flopped big time.
Yeah. I know who disrupted it the most. Your execs.
This is like the layoffs equivalent of an airline trying to get people to change to a later flight. It's like that thing where it's like, all right, look, in 5 minutes we're gonna start kicking people off the flight. Right. Does anyone just want like $100 to kick themselves off now? Right. So Lionsgate is literally like, the layoffs are coming. Anybody want to fire themselves for a nice severance package? Just let us know. And so that sucks that that combined with like the investment in AI. But that's what happens in 2024 when a company is in jeopardy, particularly a company as big as Lionsgate. Is they're going to try to cut labor costs and increase automation is just what they're going to do.
They're the first because they're having the worst year. But Brett,
it's coming.
They're all going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm not happy to report.
And I do want to put a couple asterisks on that 692 million number. And all of this is conjecture. They're not transparent about how much money they're actually losing right now.
Brett, studio accounting, yes. Folks. It's famously a little secret.
And that's one of the big asterisks, is that there's always some, financial shenanigans that go on. Some of these movies are still making money at the box office, not a lot of money, but some of the movies are still bringing money in. And the big asterisk, though, is that Lionsgate does not personally bear the full responsibility of a lot of these losses. Like for Megalopolis, they were just brought in to distribute and do marketing, so they're not on the hook for the $132 million production budget. That's all Coppola, but he doesn't give a shit. So these aren't, that full $692 million loss, if that is the actual number for how much these movies have lost, is not fully on Lionsgate. But like, if even a fraction of that
gives you a ballpark delta.
Yes. If they're even on the hook for like 300, 400 million, that's a huge loss. That's
come
huge
on, man.
loss.
13 losses in a row.
And their name is associated with like failing movies over and over and over again. So it's just been a really bad year, and now it's starting to affect their workforce, which sucks. Because look, I don't want Lionsgate to have to become an AI-run company in order to survive, but I would love Lionsgate to figure out a way to remain viable. They've been they've made a lot of great movies over the years, and obviously, most importantly, would love if they didn't have to like fire their entire staff also as well. But we'll see. It is dark days over there at Lionsgate right now. We'll
sell
see what
stars,
happens.
Which they've been trying to do for years. Nobody wants it. It's a mess. Lionsgate's a mess.
Speaking of dark days, Warner Brothers is getting. Is starting to sweat as well, because these Joker 2 projections keep going doop, 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 down.
I know, they really needed this. Yes, they had Beetlejuice, but they really needed Joker followed
Folie à deux somehow. I mean, and also seeing how good Deadpool and Wolverine did, which is sort of in a similar vein.
Comic book movie,
a comic book, an R-rated comic book sequel for red-pilled dorks. Deadline is currently reporting a 55 million projected opening weekend. I mean, the first one
a month. Yeah, go ahead.
The first one did a 96 million opening weekend on the way to making $1 billion.
Yeah,
the sequel is like projected 55, and some people are even saying it should be closer to 40 based on pre-sale numbers compared to other movies' pre-sale numbers and what they did. So 55 might have to be adjusted. How did this happen? How did the bottom just fell out of Joker 2? I thought this was going to be one of the biggest movies of the year.
Maybe Trump's gonna lose. You know, that's what this makes me think.
You're starting to do some correlative.
I'm just like, I want to see. You know how like,
cartography.
You know how on the
here.
New York Times after the election you can like zoom into the county and see like 370 people voted for Trump and whoever voted for whoever. That's what I want for the box office. Like, what areas are we experiencing particular Joker depreciation, and how does that correlate to sort of the voting populace? That's the numbers I want to know. I think that sincerely, like, people are a little over the like, it's all a disaster. It's crazy out there, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, enough with the bullshit. That's why we saw at the nonsense VP debate this week. They were like, Tim, you're a great fucking guy. No, JD, you're the best fucking guy I've ever met in my entire life. And people liked that because everyone's done with the sad and the mad. I think Joker 2, it's like, oy vey, like, we got to do Joker 2. Like, we're done with that. We don't want to do it again. We already been mad. We're done. Maybe Trump's gonna lose, Brett.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Maybe Trump's gonna lose.
First.
You heard it here first. Maybe he'll lose.
Joker 2's low projections bad for Trump is the headline coming out of Movies Baby this week. Speaking of headlines, I got a couple movie news headlines for you, and I want to run through these quickly because we have a lot to get to today. And I want you to do one of two things. Okay, this is a new segment. I don't have any art for it, but it's a new segment called Woo or Boo. Woo or Boo, and that's like woo or boo. So you either like, this makes you go woo or it makes you go boo.
This is like a spin on
Plus or minus.
Boom or Doom, like the Costco guys.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. First headline. Daniel Day-Lewis is ending his acting retirement to be in a movie written and directed by his son called Anemone. Daniel Day-Lewis is coming back to acting. He's back, baby, thanks to his son. Woo or boo?
Boo. No human shit from you, Daniel Day. That's a very human, loving thing to do that makes sense for like a dad and a son. Shame on you. I need you making leather boots in Italy like a monk.
I say woo to Ronan Day-Lewis, his son. Woo for giving Nepo babies a good name. The next time somebody talks shit about Nepo babies, your response can be, well, did you get Daniel Day-Lewis back into acting? These Nepo babies are good for something. They got Daniel Day-Lewis back into acting. We're getting another Daniel Day-Lewis movie, baby, but you think that's a boo.
Boo. You should have, a real Daniel Day-Lewis would have told his son no. Next
up, Terry Gilliam and Todd Solondz can't get their freaking movies financed. Woo or boo?
Boo.
Who?
Look. It's obviously like you're like, you think woo, but then you really think about it. There is no money for production these days, and it's a shame. As much as I like want to, I wish there was still a tiny little pile of money for Terry Gilliam, even though he's had 7,000 cracks at the apple or bites at the apple. And Salon's like, I don't want to watch another movie of his. But I guess just when I finally heard it for real in my ears, I want to live in a world where everyone has a little pile of money to make their stuff, It's dark days. It's dark days.
And for some context here, Todd Solondz for a while now has been talking about how he just literally cannot. He had to shut down. His new movie almost went into production and then got shut down for the umpteenth time because the financing fell through again. And then Terry Gilliam last week said something very similar, that he just can't get the money together to make another movie.
Now those guys suck, so it's funny. But like, what about John Waters with his Aubrey Plaza movie based on his new book? And then John Waters was like, I'm going to do my new book with Aubrey Plaza, and then nobody wants to pay for it.
So you're booing the trend of these Indio tours not being able to get enough money.
Boo.
But you're wooing specifically Todd Solondz and Terry Gilliam not having enough money to make a movie.
No, I'm just specifically wooing those guys or booing those guys. I wish that they had money for their next movies.
Now, here's what the king does when he can't get his movies made. My next headline is that Martin Scorsese's two big projects, the Jesus movie and the Sinatra movie, have both been put on some sort of indefinite hold. They're saying script needs work and there's casting things, this and that. But again, there might not, I don't know, it's possible there's not money for a Scorsese Sinatra movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. There's no way.
That's what I'm talking about. There's no money for production.
But guess what Scorsese's doing in the meantime,
what?
baby? He's going to Italy and he's shooting a documentary about ancient Italian shipwrecks. The king lives, baby. The king lives. You can't keep him down. That's a woo from me. What about from you, Joe?
That's a big fat woo.
I cannot wait
about Italian shipwrecks.
Scorsese's Italian
that
shipwrecks
guy's
documentary.
so
Look it up.
fucking
It's
on
happening.
game. It's out of control.
Filmed. It's being filmed.
He's nuts. And you know what else? I'm glad you mentioned it. It's Italian American Heritage Month. So this is perfect news for Italian American Heritage Month.
This is going to be a great episode.
It's a great episode.
That.
They took away Columbus Day from us, and they gave us a whole month. Thank you for Italian American Heritage Month. You call it spooky season.
Columbus is a
I
psychopath.
call it Italian American Heritage Month.
Last headline for you to woo or boo, Joe. The movie Rust.
Woo.
The one, nope, that's not. That's probably should be a boo.
A boo.
Yeah, there we go. We'll fix that in post.
Oh, Rust.
Rust, right? The one where
the Alec Baldwin
Hannah
film.
Hutchins, the cinematographer, was shot and killed by Alec Baldwin with a prop gun. That's obviously a boo.
Obviously,
Rust.
Horrible. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They stuck with it. They got that movie finished, and now it has its world premiere date at Poland's Camera Image Film Festival. Rust is going to Poland, baby. Is that a woo or a boo?
You know, it rides the line. It's sort of an exhale. I guess it's a woo because I don't know. Like here's what I'll say. I'm not proud of this. I don't want this to be true. I wish I wasn't saying this on a microphone. But like that day when Rust is on HBO Max or whatever,
you're going to watch that.
I'm going to watch that movie just to see.
I mean, you love your Western. You love your neo-Western.
I know. And it's like,
and you're a completist.
They're putting it out, and like I feel like if they hit it in a box, that would have been the most appropriate thing to do. Shut down production. I don't really know.
Finish the movie.
I don't really know the specifics. I probably would have just like rapped and. It's just lost.
Baldwin was a producer.
Finishing
on the movie.
It is crazy.
Baldwin must have been like, because we were reading about Coppola this week and all the just financial shit over the years he had to go through to get his movies made. Baldwin must have been like in trouble. He must have like had to finish it. Or
it's like why Trump needs to be the president. It's like otherwise he goes to jail.
Right.
Coppola's like we have to finish, or Baldwin is like we have to finish the movie or else they're going to think that I actually did something bad. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's like, well, Tucker had to make those last 4 cars in Tucker A Man in His Dream. Check out part 2 of this podcast.
Now, we'll hear more about this later, but this must have been a big day for Poland's Camera Image Film Festival. Yeah. I mean, the day when they have their meeting and they're like, okay, we got this cool little art film from Sweden and we got this thing. And another guy's like, guys,
guess what?
I got Rust.
I just got an email from the Rust team. They want to do it. And then, then one of them was like, we can't do that. That's everyone's going to be so mad at us. They're going to hate us. They're going to get canceled. They're going to think we're really bad. And some guy was no.
Just some bloodthirsty maniac in the room was like, do we want eyeballs on this festival or do we just want to all go home and sit on our hands? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
We're screening Rust.
We're screening Rust.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
So we going to Poland for this? Or
I was thinking I'm going to be there anyway.
Wait, why?
I'm not going to be there. Let's go. I'll go with you to Poland, Brett. That'd be fun.
Joe, you, as we know from the theme song, you're the Philly movie freak. Every night, like the moon, you appear at all the movie theaters all over town.
That's right.
I heard you were making your way around all the movie theaters all over town this past week, and you saw some good stuff. Where were you? What'd you see? What's going on?
Thanks, Brett. I really wanted to tell everybody that, Beyond Fest, which is a great film festival, is happening right now in Los Angeles this year. Neon's presenting, Neon's Beyond Fest was out, and I got the opportunity to see 2 cool things that I wanted to share with you, Brett. The first is it's the 50th anniversary, folks, of one of our favorite movies of all time, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The best.
As you can see, we have a giant Leatherface statue right here in our basement for the show. So we love TCM. I got to see the restored 50th anniversary at the Egyptian on 35 millimeter. It was spectacular. At the end, Brett, it was a 14-person talkback with all of the actors, the producers, the film guys that were all like alive. Obviously Hooper has passed, but they were all up on stage talking about the film. Eli Roth was the moderator. And it was an amazing talkback. And what was kind of funny about it was Eli Roth, one of his favorite movies, of course, is Texas Chainsaw, and he's up there with all of these people. The hitchhiker was there, Brett, and the women, and the guy that drove the truck was there, telling funny stories about how he just got a call from Hooper that he needed to borrow the truck for the day, man. Stuff like that. So that was super cool.
I've always heard that shoot was one of the most look, everybody was in on it. The beauty of indie filmmaking. I've heard that shoot was miserable, legendary.
They talked about how hot, Act 3 in the dining room. Talked about how insanely hot it was. Yeah. How they left the food out for days as they were shooting it, and how it stunk to high heaven, and how everything made them throw up. The guy who played the grandpa was there, except now he's an old man, but back then he was just a fresh-faced 20-year-old. Right. What was funny about the thing was, it's a 50-year anniversary, which means all of the people on stage were quite up in age, and
it's been a long time.
It wasn't really conducive to the world's most sort of enlightening talkback, but it certainly was funny, and that was great. The day after that, I got to see a Sam Raimi triple feature in 35 millimeters. Got to see Darkman,
Darkman,
Quick and the Dead,
nice,
and Drag Me to Hell, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
That's a nice Raimi triple feature. That's well curated.
It's an amazing triple feature.
Where was that?
At the Egyptian. Again, 35 millimeter. And then at the end, Sam Raimi gave a talk back at those screenings. Raimi was he's a showman. He was being funny, being charming, telling amazing stories. He told a great story about how on the set of Darkman, Liam Neeson came over to him, Brett, and said, "I want everybody in the crew to call me Darkman." And Sam Raimi was like, "Oh, okay. Are you really?" And he was like, "Yeah." Okay. So he went over to the crew and he was like, "Hey guys, Liam, just no matter what, he just wants you to call him Darkman for the rest of the shoot." And they were like, okay. And so they're like, pass me the cream cheese, Darkman. And they just called him Darkman. So that was endearing.
What a funny movie to go method on.
It's so
just take
funny.
the check and read your lines.
Sam Raimi was like, in the movie, he's like, but that's what the people call Darkman. That's not even his name. Yeah. That was they gave that to him. He doesn't know that's his moniker.
Liam was simultaneously so into it and hadn't read the script.
A really cool Raimi story that Raimi told about Darkman was, he said, it's a story that Universal really doesn't want you to know. So here's some fun movie tea.
Here we go.
So they filmed Darkman. And Universal, and he was like, "Okay, time for me to cut my movie." And Universal was like, "No." They brought in an editor. They did a cut. They screened it. It got a 24 out of 100 with the test audience, the lowest score in the history of the studio. Okay, in the 50-year history of running the scores, Darkman got the lowest. So then they brought in another editor to punch it up. They brought it back again. It got a 27 this time, another stinker. Then they told Raimi, "Okay, fine, we're going to let you do a cut of the movie because we can't, crack it, but you have 2 weeks." And Raimi's like, "How am I going to do that?" He spent the first week unorganizing, because this is before all this digital stuff. This is on film. Unorganizing the editor's cut, and then he spent the second week beginning to do his cut. He ran out of time. They made him bring it to the screening room. They showed it. It got a 30. Universal threw their hands up in the air and said, "Fuck it." Just that's the movie. It's a piece of shit. Whatever. So there was a week though until they took the print. And what they had to do back in the day, making movies with film, is they would have to go make a copy of the main film, and they'd make 15 black and white copies of it, and those would go out to all the different sound departments, and the music would get one, and everyone would get one, and they'd go make 15 of them with all the different sounds, and they smush them all together, and then they make a movie, and that's the real movie. So whatever movie they were going to copy into the 15 black and white work reels had to be the final cut. So there was a week until that day. Sam Raimi had a guy call him when everybody else left the office at Universal. He would sneak in at 6 p.m. He would work all night secretly on recutting Darkman. He did this every single day, 12 hours a night for a week. Didn't tell anybody at Universal. They then went, at the end of the week, they picked up that reel and they copied it. And that's the movie Darkman that we know.
That's amazing.
And then it wasn't until after the movie, had gone through all this, and it was months later after all the work had been done on it, the producer, Jax, calls Raimi and he's like, "Hey, fucker, what the fuck did you do?" And Raimi's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "You cut that film." He said, "And the only reason I'm not going to fucking kill you is because I'm going to get fucking fired if anybody ever finds out that I didn't know that you did that."
I love it.
Isn't that a great story?
That's a great story.
God damn.
Story.
And then the last great story he told was on Quick and the Dead. Leo DiCaprio's 15 in the movie. He comes in, they're casting. Leo wants to meet Sam Raimi. He goes into Sam Raimi's office. He's 15. Raimi's never met him before. Leo sits down in front of the chair in front of him, swings both his feet up on Sam Raimi's desk, puts his hands up, and goes, "So you want me to be in your movie, huh?"
That is prime Pussy Posse era.
15!
Leo. Dude, Leo was he 15 in the movie or in real life?
Oh, no, in real life. Like, he's like 15, 16. Like, he's so young.
I think that was
pulling
already,
that kind of stuff.
Was already
he'd been doing it for a decade.
Wild child at that point. That guy had just like, my God, that like the ego of young Leonardo DiCaprio should be like studied by scientists.
And it all pays off on screen.
Yeah,
like he is so wonderful in that movie. That movie, Quick and the Dead. I always talk about Drag Me to Hell, but I'll talk about Quick and the Dead for 2 seconds. Absolutely one of the great modern westerns. Incredibly fun, amazing cast. Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's right, Russell Crowe's
the
in
list
that.
goes on and on. It's like 10 deep. It's one of the best casts, and it's such a fun movie. A lot of great character actors. Anyway, I had to share some stories with you guys.
You had a great.
It was a great
week at the cinema, baby.
I did. So shout out Egyptian. Shout out Beyond Fest.
Now coming up, now we're gonna be reviewing this week's new releases, The Wild Robot and Megalopolis. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers, guys, it's impossible to give an honest review of these movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not in the least, I would recommend playing it safe. Just put us on mute for a second and then rejoin when we're on to our next movie. You can keep track of that by looking at the lower third on the screen. It'll tell you what movie we're talking about. So thank you very much, and now on to the reviews. The Wild Robot, Joe. I watched The Wild Robot. I took my son to see it this weekend. This is a movie from DreamWorks Animation, which is basically the last meaningful vestige of the whole DreamWorks experiment that was started by Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen back in the 90s. DreamWorks Animation, over the last 25 years or so, has really been the only major competitor to Disney Pixar in terms of animated movies ostensibly for kids. Their first movie, Ants, was the first non-Disney animated movie to gross over 100 million worldwide, but it also suffered critically from comparisons to Pixar's A Bug's Life, which came out the same year and was considered the better movie. And that's kind of been the DreamWorks reputation ever since. They have been able to hang with Disney Pixar financially, at least in the ballpark, with stuff like Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, etc. But they are not seen as critically and culturally on the same level as Disney Pixar in terms of the movies that they're making. And of course, big exceptions there. Again, Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon. They have some critical hits as well, but they just churn and burn way faster than Disney Pixar. And so they'll whip out a Boss Baby, a Shark Tale, a Trolls, to make some money. And that's why The Wild Robot is such an interesting movie in their canon, because this movie feels like DreamWorks is attempting to make a Pixar movie. This feels like they're trying to do their WALL-E or whatever the case. And the one area I would say where this movie is able to compete, where it is on par with Pixar, if not better, is the animation in this movie is gorgeous, particularly at a time when animation is just starting to get sort of cheaper and faster and more AI-y. I mean, if you look at the stuff our kids watch on TV, it just all looks like it was created by a computer. It just doesn't feel like composed or drawn or painted or human even, so much animation these days just feels so automated. This movie feels like a painting in almost in every frame. It is gorgeous. And I mean, even, forget Pixar. This is honestly almost on par with Studio Ghibli stuff. This is just in terms of the animation, it is beautiful. And that's not, unintentional. I was reading some behind the scenes stuff on the movie, and the animation team was indeed inspired by the classic Disney animated movies and by Miyazaki movies. They specifically cited Bambi and My Neighbor Totoro. It's also, and this is sad, this is just, I mean, speaking of your Lionsgate thing, this is actually the final film to be animated entirely in-house at DreamWorks, because the company is going to start relying heavily on outside vendors after 2024, AI, in other words. So this feels like the animation team was like, all right, this is the last one. We're going all in. We're going to do it our way, and we're going to show them what they're missing when they move over to whatever other model they're going to move to. And the movie is CGI. It's digital, but the animators really took their time with it, and they gave it this like hand-painted look. Like a lot of it, you think you're seeing like brush strokes almost. Like it literally looks like it's like been painted. And these huge vistas of this sort of forested island where the robot lands are just gorgeous, and all the animals. And then there's a sequence later on. I won't spoil anything, but there's a sequence where you sort of find out what humanity has been up to, and those sequences are just beautiful and gorgeous as well. So I just thought it was and Chris Sanders, the director, called it a Monet painting in a Miyazaki forest, which is a very that's very ambitious, and he's saying that about his own movie, but he's not off. This thing like wanted to be beautiful, and it is beautiful, and it's also gorgeous because it like thinks cinematically for an animated movie. So even just the compositions are gorgeous. Like the compositions are very cinematic. They're not overloaded. They almost are like, it almost feels like a movie where it almost feels like it has the restraints of live action filmmaking. Those the way those just the natural restraints of live action filmmaking make you, force you to pick compositions and force you to make choices. It feels like that kind of a movie, and that's what creates the beauty, I think, rather than something like Transformers 1, which was, again, just like somebody poured Red Bull into a computer and left it on overnight. It was just this onslaught of just like so much fucking digital animation. It was hard to even make sense of it. The compositions and the animation in this movie are gorgeous. The story is good but not great. I would give it like a B+. It's just so clearly trying to follow the Pixar model, this like deeply emotional movie that tugs at your heartstrings, and it's about loss and chosen families, and it features these sort of fun, quirky characters, but it's also trying to make you weep like a baby. The movie is like really intentionally trying to follow that model.
Did you weep?
And I think
you're a weeper.
I shed a little tear. Yeah, for sure. Sure. I mean, whether or not it was exploited out of me is another question, but I did shed a little tear.
Okay.
But I do think this movie gets sort of bogged down in like the rule book of like how to make a Pixar movie. It just feels a little too like rote in the way it's going about it, and it doesn't feel as dynamic or
rote
original.
In a week where you watch 20 Francis Ford Coppola movies is a tough pill to swallow.
That's something.
It must
right?
feel weird,
It
watching
does.
like a straightforward movie
with like a really
narrative.
clear narrative strategy. Yeah, and that's disappointing because this movie is written and directed by Chris Sanders, like I said, who is responsible for what I think is the greatest animated kids movie of all time, Lilo and Stitch. A recent opinion of mine. It used to be,
but a big one.
Asked me a year ago, I would have said Ratatouille with a bullet. And of course, the Miyazaki movies are amazing. But for me now, it's Lilo and Stitch. And so I had a lot more hope for this, because of how sort of unique and dynamic the story of Lilo and Stitch is. But this just felt a little bit more cookie cutter as a story. But overall, it's a really good movie with some strong voice performances. Matt Berry as the beaver in particular is fantastic. The first time that beaver opens his mouth and it's Matt Berry's voice, that was great. That was a win. Your kids will love it. Sandy keeps talking about Roz. Roz is the robot. He was a big fan of the movie.
Okay.
It's easy to follow. It's beautiful to look at. Good but not great. Check it out.
Okay. Well, we love. But enough nonsense.
Here we go, baby.
Let's
the main
talk
event.
about Megalopolis.
The main event. We've been waiting for months, years even.
Decades, generations.
Decades, one could say.
Here's what happened. In 1997 or 8, Coppola made The Rainmaker in Hollywood. It's a John Grisham adaptation with Matt Damon. It's a wonderful movie, but
really
it's a straightforward, movie, lovely and beautiful and brilliant.
Simple movie.
Yes, but it's a movie, right? It's a movie you'd be familiar with if you sat down and watched it. You've seen movies like it before, and you will again. In 1997, Coppola said, "I made Rainmaker. I'm done. I don't want to make Hollywood movies anymore. I want to be a student of filmmaking, and I want to develop more skills. I want to self-finance. I want to go small, and that's exactly what he did. He didn't make a movie for 10 years, and then he started making a series of weird, low-budget movies that we'll talk about in the second hour, but they were each one, Brett, sort of a different testing ground, different flavors or different things he hadn't tried yet, which, must have been, he tried so much, but there's still some stuff he didn't do. And it was all building towards this idea he's had for, decades, where he wants to make this movie Megalopolis, okay? And it's going to be him using every skill and technique he's learned since he was 16 years old working in the theater, all the way, through Twixt, everything he's ever known about life, philosophy, love, creation, art, and filmmaking. He's going to put it all in one feature film. We all know he took $140 million of his own money, and he went down to Peachtree, Georgia, where he films his stuff
Peachtree
sometimes.
City, baby.
Peachtree City, thank you, Georgia. And he went down there. They built a megalopolis. They took years to make. The reviews started coming out, Brett. Coming out of Cannes.
Yes.
People saw Megalopolis. Oh, this movie's insane. They're never going to be able to sell this movie. No one's ever going to see it. There's no way to market it. It's impossible. It's crazy. It's a mess. Coppola's lost it. But here we are.
Here we are.
It came out.
Happened. He got it over the finish line.
We watched the movie.
I saw it in a theater.
It's about,
this week.
It stars Adam Driver, who plays a character named Caesar Catalina, and he lives in a futuristic New York City, and he is a Robert Moses type, aka he's an unelected figure that has incredible power over the city's construction. Caesar is interested in the future, and he's interested in not solving the problems of now, but using alternative methods to solve the problems of then, or there will be. He created his own mineral called
Substance.
Megalon, which is like he can build cool stuff with it.
He can make invisible dresses with it.
He can stop time. He can crush buildings and put buildings
genius.
up. He can draw stuff. He can do everything. And his name's Caesar Catalina. Just to kind of round out the picture of this film, Brett, we see the opulence and decadence of the time, especially via Jon Voight's actually very funny and very good character.
Good.
Jon Voight. It's so funny.
Good.
We just watched him in Reagan, like shit the bed, like awfully.
Can I say really quick?
Yeah.
Because I have a theory that the old Hollywood guys who have gone MAGA, your Dennis Quaid's, your Jon Voight's. What have we learned this month, right?
Yeah.
Put them in your movies so they don't go and do their movies is what we need to do with these MAGA guys. Because Dennis Quaid in The Substance was an absolute riot, whereas in Reagan it was just like, dear God, make it stop, please. And then Jon Voight was hilarious in Megalopolis.
He was so
funny and so well cast. And this will keep them busy so they don't go do God's Not Dead or freaking what is the new Trump movie by the Dinesh D'Souza movie?
Trump's always right, or whatever that's called. Trump never dies.
We need to keep these guys working in Indio tour movies. They still got a lot of good work.
Boo-hoo, you get Jon Voight in your movie.
Don't let them go. Do not leave them to their own devices, because they're gonna do fucking God's Not Dead and it's gonna swing the election and be like the deciding two votes.
John,
so put them in your movies.
Come over here. We'll make a movie.
Wes Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, Sean Baker, Sofia Coppola. Put these old ass losers in your movies because they still got good work in them.
Yes. Well said. Voight's great, and he's like the king, and he marries Wow Platinum, which is the name of Aubrey Plaza's character. Again, she's funny and great. So there's like all of this sort of excess that Caesar is against. The woman, Natalie, what's her last name? Emmanuel. She's Nathalie Emmanuel. She's from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
She plays Giancarlo Esposito's daughter. Giancarlo's like the mayor. He's the mayor who's in opposition to Caesar. So I just kind of want to like lay out the basic plot.
Yes, you have all these like you have a couple like archetypal characters:
yes.
The visionary architect, the mayor, the banker, the
right.
journalist, the entertainers, and then they're all just competing for control of Megalopolis, which is competing for control of for the future of human civilization, and they all like fight for control, and that's the movie.
So
yes,
this movie also incorporates all sorts of in-camera tricks and CGI
pulling it all
elements,
out.
and he's the screen's getting smaller. And we all famously know, most impactfully, importantly, and crazily, there is supposed to be a part where Adam Driver's giving a press conference, and a literal, physical, human being person in your theater, an actor, is supposed to be in the scene asking him questions. Not because the movie made no money. This only happened like 4 or 5 times in the history of this movie screening, but that's a thing everybody knows about the movie, and that also gives you an idea of what Coppola was going for, because it's very obvious what this project for Coppola is and was. He is exploring and pleading with us to continue to explore what is the future of cinema going to be, and what type of cinema will we, humanity, create yet again. That's like the noble question asked by Megalopolis.
So, Joe, you have set the table really well here. We know where this movie came from, how it got to screens, what it means for Coppola.
I think it deserved a little ramp up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this movie? And then I'll tell you what I thought. Yeah. And then we're going to have to rate it out of 5 because this is on your fantasy team.
Yep, this is on my fantasy team. All right, so here's my review of Megalopolis. Coppola is searching desperately for the future of cinema. And he, in Megalopolis, tries 150 different things that we have never seen before in a movie. And not a single one of those 150 things works. But he saved us all the time as we search for the future of cinema. We don't have to worry about the 150 things that he tries during Megalopolis. It's that being said, God, I love Megalopolis. The movie is wildly uneven. It really stretches the definition of the word movie. But there's definitely like a narrative hole there. There's definitely so many gorgeous visuals there, things that I had never seen before. It really like made me think, and it made me passionate about the movies. But man, there was 3 walkouts in my theater. There was a fight between a couple that had to get broken up by the fucking. That had to get broken up by the.
Was the fight about Megalopolis?
The fight was about.
You get closer to your mic.
Yeah, well, Margaret just told me to move away from the mic. Sorry, is this good? Okay.
Yeah, but you get closer to the mic.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Sorry. A couple of mistakes. He is sincere in his efforts to try to imagine what cinema is going to be next, but he is too much of a traditionalist. He's too much of an old man or an old soul. He gets none of it right. Like everything that we learned from like aggro drift to Chime this year about like the infinite possibilities of the future of the visual medium and the future of cinema. Coppola just is kind of incapable of dreaming up any of them. Even Caesar's futuristic renderings are like futuristic renderings of like a hotel in space from 1971, you know? He's an old man. It's an old man movie. It's full of a lot of pretension and passion and vigor. He has these like big quotes full of big thoughts, and some of them are like, whoa, yeah. And some of them are like, Jesus, that is the fucking worst line I've ever heard uttered in a motion picture. I mean, there were some parts of this movie where I was like, yeesh, my God, man. How, like, there's vulnerability, and then there's that. And then there were sometimes in this movie where I was like, holy fucking moly. Like, that just took it out from under me. That was amazing. I thought Driver was great and game. He was down to clown. And you know what? He did a hell of a To Be or Not to Be. That was a legitimately good To Be or Not to Be.
That worked so much better than I thought it was going to work. He does the entire To Be or Not to Be speech from Hamlet, but in context, it's very funny.
I went to theater school, and there were some parts of, I had never even heard of that speech until I heard Driver doing it. I was like, whoa.
Wow. Really quickly, not to sidetrack, but do we know why that couple got in that fight? Was it Megalopolis related in your theater?
I don't know.
Okay.
They were in the back.
You just heard it. It was just
they were like
abstract fight.
One left and they came back, and the other one left and they came back, and then the security had to come. It was an abstract fight. There was 2 walkouts before then the fight, then there was a final walkout. I thought he was going to go get popcorn. He never returned. But at the end, the people that stayed, like the 8, 9 of us, a healthy camaraderie.
I love
a
that.
lot of smiling and backslapping after Megalopolis, because we all just had the time of our lives. Because Megalopolis doesn't work. It's a mess. It's a great time, and we all fucking loved it.
You're the one sitting in the rowboat while the Titanic sinks and people are drowning and freezing to death. You're all on the rowboat like
we're all like
we
whoa.
made it. We did it. We made it through.
Can you believe that? So anyway, Driver was great in game. Plaza was super fun. I'm glad that Coppola found so many different flavors of fun. Dude, Shia LaBeouf in this movie, I'm sure you're going to talk about it.
Wild
Crazy.
man. Wild man, wilding out.
So good. I loved at the end when Adam Driver's face was in the big yellow swirl above like the burning metropolis, and he's like, and he says the now famous, "We need to have a great debate about the future." Like, Megalopolis is such the culmination of this kind of thought. Isn't Francis Ford Coppola the fucking best?
Yeah.
Like, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
They do not make him like this anymore. This movie's not.
He had to make it himself.
This
with his
movie's
wine
not
money.
great.
He had to build a
movie doesn't work.
He had to build a like $500 million wine empire to get this movie made.
He's like the confluence of American entrepreneurial spirit and like intense artistic stringency that creates this possibly like intoxicating blend of filmmaking that just gets more and more radical and experimental. Megalopolis is going to be talked about forever, Brett. We'll never stop talking about it. It's going to be a reference point forever. I'm so happy it came out. Can I give it my number?
Hold off until I give my number. How about that?
That sounds fair.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Now, my screening of Megalopolis, and first of all, I'm like weirdly like happy for you that you got to see Megalopolis. I don't know why. I feel like this is just a movie.
No, because I was really looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, I'm happy for you.
Everything leading up to it was like, it's so crazy. Like, how could it possibly be so crazy? And then it was.
You got Horizon and Megalopolis in the same year. What a gift for you.
I loved it. Man, like the visual. How about that one part where Giancarlo Esposito's like desk is like in the sand? Yes. Like
she has that. His daughter has like a vision of him, and then it's so amazing.
And then how about those big? I was obsessed. This guy's the king of the beautiful crossfade, right? He does it in all his movies to incredible effect.
I was time and time again. My favorite one is Godfather Part 2 when it fades from present day Michael to past day Vito, and it's like
right on him.
Flawless. The crossfade, it's so flawless.
Every movie randomly, he all of a sudden pulls out this amazing crossfade. Well, in Megalopolis, these massive brown sepia tone visions of like pyramids and Adam Driver and time, and they looked spectacular.
It's amazing.
Okay, but what about you?
All right,
what did you think of Megalopolis?
So my screening of Megalopolis. And I will say, for a weekday matinee of Megalopolis, I walked in and I was like, oh, it was like fairly packed.
Nice.
But also like everyone was like, to the extent that it's possible, everyone was like sitting as far away from each other as possible. So it was like packed and sparse at the same. It was a weird vibe. And everybody, I felt like I'd walked into like the waiting room at jury duty. Like everyone was either like a retiree or like a cinephile without an office job. And so it was like a crowd where you either had like bought a house in Laurel Canyon in the 70s for $50,000 or you were like currently struggling to pay rent in like Atwater Village. It was like those two groups of people together.
Correct.
There was no in between. They were all sitting as far away from each other as possible. They looked like everybody looked sad and miserable and like defeated and like sheepish a little bit. I think everybody else thought that they would be the only person at Megalopolis, but there was a lot of us.
Right.
But Joe, I gotta say, there is no reason for anyone in my screening or anyone in any other Megalopolis screening to feel sheepish, to feel tired, to feel defeated, because once this movie started, Joe, Megalopolis is a freaking blast. Start to finish, a blast. I had so much fun watching this bizarre-ass movie. It is like there's so little point in like debating if it's a good movie or not, because what a like unique singular cinematic experience it is that this guy put his entire fortune to make and is not going to get it's going to get very little money back from. I had so much fun watching this. Here's some of the things I like about it. First, Megalopolis is a movie that very self-consciously takes upon itself the burden of satirizing the decline and fall of the American empire, and also placing it in the context of the history of civilization, namely the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. In other words, Megalopolis is trying to not just be relevant, but to be the definitive prophetic movie of our times. It's what Coppola does. It's the only way he knows how to like make movies, right? He's going to make the movie. And that might mean like, I'm going to make a personal movie, but it's going to be like the personal movie. I'm going to make a Megalopolis. It's going to be like the fucking zeitgeist movie. And yet, Megalopolis is so bizarre and singular that it refers to nothing that resembles the world. So it's like trying to be the zeitgeist movie while referring to like nothing that resembles the real world. But I fucking love that. I love that about the movie. I think it's its saving grace, because I don't want to see 85-year-old Francis Ford Coppola making something that is like too closely about Trump, or like too closely about like wokeness or something. Can you imagine? That is not what I want from Coppola. The only thing that this movie refers to is the preoccupations of Francis Ford Coppola. This movie refers back on itself. It is a movie that is just the expression of Coppola's imagination. And for all of the like from the imagination of taglines that we see on movies, from the imagination of John Krasinski, from the mind that brought you Superstore or whatever, right? This is the only guy who deserves the from the imagination of title, because Megalopolis is a movie that only exists because of Francis Ford Coppola's imagination, and only could have come from 80-year-old Francis Ford Coppola's imagination. One of, if not the greatest American filmmaker of all time, ensconced deep in his Napa estate, listening to his Verdi records, his La Boheme record, reading Ovid, cracking open another bottle of Montepulciano. He definitely doesn't drink his own wine. No. And loosely, I stress, loosely keeping track of the world through like, checking TV and Twitter every once in a while. But this movie is, for all of its posturing about being like about America and empire and decline and stuff, this is just Francis Ford Coppola's imagination unbound, and I fucking love it. I also underestimated how kooky and silly and funny this movie would be. This movie was cracking me up. It's so silly, it's so choreographed, it goes so fast. It's almost like, he's having trouble financing his own movies. It almost felt like Coppola, because how he works in different modes and different styles and genres. It almost felt like he tried to make like a Terry Gilliam movie or something. It had that like kooky, like that. Had this like that kooky sort of rhythm to it. You know what I mean?
It has that like satirical.
But this is like Coppola's version of that mode. Right. So it doesn't feel like it just has like sort of the architecture and sort of stylings of a Terry Gilliam movie, but very much a Coppola movie at the same time. And the big difference, the thing that separates this from Terry Gilliam movies, is this movie is funny. It is unexpectedly funny. I loved Spike Jonze's take on Megalopolis. It totally resonated with me. Spike Jonze, Coppola's former son-in-law, was exuberant about the movie in his review. He had nothing but praise, and most importantly, he said, I laughed out loud the whole time. Yeah. Spike, same. This movie was cracking me up. Absolutely. A couple specifics. Shia LaBeouf is so fucking funny in this movie. He's fucking his sister, because this is all based on like Roman Empire stuff. He's got a little rat tail. He wears this like wide brim hat around. He's always like dancing around and like slinking around, and he talking like incomprehensible shit, just like little phrases, and like he's like, it reminded me of like Dennis Hopper on the set of Apocalypse Now. Like Shia's like is trying to be that person in the Coppola movie. There's one point after he frames Caesar, Adam Driver's character. He frames Caesar for having sex with a minor during his dad's wedding reception by projecting it on the screen of Madison Square Garden where the reception's happening. And at the time, he's dressed like one of the Vestal Virgins, again, because everything is just ancient Rome stuff. And he says like to himself, he goes, revenge tastes best while wearing a dress. And I was like, this movie fucking rocks. This is the craziest movie. It's so much fun. And speaking, we said Jon Voight is so funny. I was shocked by how funny he could be.
Me too.
Let's see. Aubrey Plaza is great. Aubrey Plaza is the only one that seems to like get the movie. Like because she's almost strategic in like playing for camp and laughs. I think Aubrey figured out what the movie was because her performance is like very in line.
Well, she just wasn't tricked by like, oh, this is a big serious deal. She just read the script and said, oh, my character's really funny. I'll just do my
She's
thing.
like, I get these beats, these bits.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but she really gets the spirit and the vibe of the movie. There's one point where Aubrey Plaza gets Jon Voight a gold statue of himself in front of Madison Square Garden for their wedding, and he looks at it and he goes, and this is it, huh?
Great movie.
He's like, this is it.
Yeah, Jon Voight might be the MVP of the movie.
Of himself. There's a scene where Talia Shire, Coppola's younger sister, talks about string theory. I'm sorry, this movie's supposed to be bad? What are people talking about? This movie fucking rocks.
Yeah, wait, when people say it's bad, like I get it, like it is bad, right?
But it's
do those people?
Are you happy with that review? Does that feel like the movie you saw?
Yeah, right.
To call it bad.
It was bad.
A bad
How
movie?
was it bad? It's like, come on.
That doesn't resonate.
That doesn't.
That
can't be your answer.
Honest to my experience in watching.
Like
the movie.
I get what you're saying. It is bad. I get
what you mean, but that's not an honest reaction to what this movie is doing.
Come on. It gave you no joy. It was bad. It didn't make you think or make you feel or make you laugh or smile. Like get out of here.
Be honest about your reactions to the movie. Adam Driver strutting through the city looking like Orson Welles in F for Fake with his little at one point
he's dressed like Coppola. He just dresses like, this is like 3 movies in a row. He's just a big fat old Italian guy now. That's all Adam Driver can do. It's like Coppola saw Ferrari and was like, that's me. That's Caesar Catalina. Bring him in here. I love it.
There's one point where Driver snaps his cape, and I was like, he's wearing a cape?
Yeah,
I forgot he was wearing a cape. He wears a cape around. He's got a big brimmed hat. He's same with LaBeouf. He's just spouting these nonsensical aphorisms, but they're so funny. He's doing weird little soft shoe moments. He's putting on a show on the red carpet. You know the way Elon Musk will put a show on the red carpet, and it's so awkward. Adam Driver's putting on a little Elon Musk show.
He does his little dances. I know. I like how Caesar. He's such this forward-thinking genius, but he still does the press thing, and he still plays his part in the culture.
He's weirdly media savvy.
Yes,
for
he's very
an
media
eccentric
savvy.
Architect.
Yes.
When Coppola cuts from the opening credits of the movie to just a shot of the Milky Way galaxy, I was like, here we go.
Finally.
Here we go. It's it felt like when your team returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown. It was it's out of the gate. We are in it. We're ready to go. The vibes are good. And I cannot stress this enough. It is it's also so refreshing that this movie is not Coppola hasn't spent the last 20 years on Facebook is what this movie told me. Coppola has spent the last 20 years doing what Coppola does, reading and listening to his opera records, because it's so refreshing to watch a movie do cultural zeitgeist that isn't extremely online, Right. It didn't have any of the terminology of our culture. It had none of the memes of our culture. It was a movie about our culture that by someone who hasn't been paying attention to the culture, and because of that,
it had
a
Jan 6
charm.
reference, and that's it.
And it was so light and tangential. Yeah. It is and you can point to people as that person's sort of Trumpy or this and that, but he doesn't do any of that hard. And that is what's so charming about the movie, is it really just exists on Coppola Island. In fact, I think I would have invented a new phrase for Megalopolis, which is you've heard extremely online. This movie is minimally online. This movie is online to the small. This movie is only online to file for a copyright trademark.
Right.
This movie is minimally online
on the DMV website.
And because of that, a funny byproduct of that though is that because Coppola is completely unaware that the conceits of the West and civilization and all of this have just been completely co-opted by 4chan white supremacists, and Coppola is just completely unaware of that and just plows through with the West and civilization and everything, because I was thinking there was moments where I was like, what if I had to force like parallels and analogs, who are these people in real life? And I think Adam Driver is Jordan Peterson is the only thing I could come up with.
Adam Driver is Francis Ford Coppola.
But I'm talking about but only because Coppola is not paying attention to like the culture. So like if you had to force like analogs and comparisons, the movie starts to become so ridiculous because all of these people in real life are like the worst people.
Okay.
But these are just like Coppola's, again, like not online Coppola in his Napa estate version of everything. And so it's not, look, it's just a thought experiment. I was just like, who would these people really be? And the fact is, they would be losers that you didn't want to watch a movie about. Instead, in Coppola's mind, these are like these visionary, elevated archetypes because he's not living in like the ditch of online media all day. I assume that's what this movie tells me, is that Coppola is not on X, but he is deep into Ovid still and Plutarch.
So much Ovid.
So look, I had so much fun watching this movie.
Let's give it a number, man. It's time.
Look, okay.
Number's hard.
Here's the thing.
I know my number.
Because I'm like, where do I even...
I know my number.
You know, we've said before, this is either going to be a 1 or a 5. There's no in between for Megalopolis, this and that.
Oh.
Francis Ford Coppola, we got to see what Francis Ford Coppola would do with a huge budget, which is amazing. We've never really seen that before. And he had to do it himself, and now we got to see it. He made a movie with a $130 million budget and no oversight. This is exactly that movie. This is the movie that Coppola makes when he gets $130 million and no oversight. That is what makes Megalopolis so much fun. It is so Coppola. Simply the fact that it exists is like part of its charm and its value. That this guy just didn't disappear into some like red wine retirement stupor. This guy raged against the dying of the light. This movie, honestly, nothing in history has ever raged harder against the dying of the light than Megalopolis. Yeah. And for that reason, Joe, for the way that it rages against the dying of the light, for the fact that this guy made this movie when he's 85 years old, I'm giving Megalopolis 5 freaking stars, baby. 5-star movie. 5-star movie. And that's honest.
That's brilliant.
5-star movie.
God damn. God, I love that. And that's 5 big ones up on the points for me. Brett, much like you, I have to be honest. And here's the facts. I thought about this all week. I want to give Megalopolis the fairest thing I can, which is a 3. I'm giving Megalopolis 3. Here's why. 2.5 is what it deserves. But you get half a star.
That's the funniest review.
You get half a star because I fucking loved it. Even though I know it's like not good, I love it. 3 stars to Megalopolis.
That's an 8 total. And that brings you up.
There's a lot of love in that 3 though, and I had to be honest.
You had to be honest, and I had to be honest too. I could not leave the movie feeling the way that I felt, knowing what I know about the movie, and give it anything less than a 5. It would have been dishonest. It was just an exuberant cinematic experience. And I love the storyline. I love all of it.
Letterboxd, you have the stars, but you also have the heart. Where it's like you can be a 1, but sometimes you just love it. Like this is a 3 with a heart, baby. Like I love Megalopolis, but it's definitely a 3. I'll tell you that. So Brett, how am I doing?
You have basically secured a victory. That's not true. We're at the point in the game where, and we're talking about our fantasy movie draft. At the beginning of the year, Joe and I drafted 5 movies each that we thought we both would really like. What are going to be collectively our 5 favorite movies of the year? That was the idea.
Add up all the points. The most points wins.
That's right. So after Megalopolis, we both have 2 movies left. I have Gladiator 2 and Terrifier 3.
I have 1 movie left.
Oh, and you have 1 movie left.
That's why you're so
behind. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
You have 1 movie left, Conclave, which I think is going to be really good as well. So you're at 32 and I'm at 20.5. So you have a pretty significant lead on me. So let's say you need
Conclave to be mid, and your 2 movies to be, awesome.
And if Conclave is at least an 8, I think that takes it for you. That at least secures
it. We'll see. But you have 2 goodies. Brett still has Terrifier 3 and Gladiator 2.
Which are going to be great.
Terrifier 3 is getting great buzz out of the gate, folks. It's going to be close. So
if you if you get an 8.5 on Conclave, you ensure a tie at the very least. But that would require me to get perfect scores on Gladiator 2 and Terrifier 3. So you are looking good right now. You are looking good.
It's
and here's
looking
the
really
board
good.
right here. I'll show this to the main camera, or me. Yeah, this one right here. So this is where I have the scores are looking. I started off so good with Monkey Man, Joe.
Yeah, Brett came out of the gate with a 9.5 on Monkey. We both just saw Monkey Man.
The highest
were just
individual
raving.
score of the year so far.
Highest individual score of the year. Brett's
Sorry,
got some
carry
sticky.
on.
Anyway, look, the draft is in full swing. It's almost the end of the year though. Terrifier 3 going to be great. Gladiator 2, Ridley Scott says it's one of his best, folks. And, Conclave out of, where was it? At Toronto or wherever it was, it was getting mixed. It was mixed. I think there's a lot of game left, Brett.
All right. I'm definitely working out of a deficit, though. I'm working from behind, but, so were the Georgia Bulldogs last weekend. They came all the way back from
We got to rank some
28-0
Coppolas,
down.
and you got to join us over on the Patreon right now. You don't want to miss it.
They still lost, but they came back.
We're ranking all of the Francis Ford Coppola movies. What will be one? Will it be The Godfather? Will it be Apocalypse Now? Will it be Megalopolis? Come and find out only on Patreon. That's patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys, folks. 5 Ys.
5 Ys. And next week, we're going to be talking about Joker, Folia, Do. We're going to be talking about Saturday Night. Those are 2 big movies.
I'm excited.
And then
Not really for either of them.
We are, next week, starting the first episode of our new season of Weekend at Bergman's, the 1980s. You helped us last week pick the whole lineup. You can go right now on patreon.com/moviesbaby to see the lineup. You don't even have to be a member. You can just see the lineup over there and then sign up if you like what you see. Next week, we're kicking it off with Videodrome, David Cronenberg's Videodrome versus Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. 2 movies with spooky television stuff in them. I think that's the link.
Bergman's is back.
Bergman's is back. We're going to be doing horror-themed episodes throughout the end of October, so stay tuned for more on that. But it all kicks off next week in the second hour with Videodrome versus Poltergeist. And speaking of the second hour, right now, the second hour is about to begin, and we're going to rank every damn Coppola movie. There's 23 or 24 of them. Worst to first. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a freaking bloodbath. No one gets out alive except our list. We have to get our list out alive so that it can live on for future generations like Megalopolis, together in the same time capsule. Shoot them at Mars, baby. Keep them alive. Megalopolis forever. Bye. Yes.
Welcome.
I
Come
will be
in.
drinking some fucking Merlot, Paul Giamatti, as long as it
Hey.
comes from the vineyard of Francis Ford Coppola.
Napa's finest.
This is some Coppola Merlot here, baby, for the second half
Salud.
of movies, baby.
Chindan.
Cheers. 1,000 years.
Clink.
I'm like that waspy lady in Vegas. in
Chendone.
Godfather Part 2. What does that mean? What does Cheng Dong
What's
mean?
Chendon?
What does that mean? It means 100 years. It means to your health. May you live for 100 years.
Oh my God, Brett, we're here to
She's gonna
do.
live for 100
Okay,
more
so look.
days. She's dating Fredo.
Hey, that's our word. Sorry, one time. This isn't how you start this podcast, but
Go
one
for it.
time,
It's the Patreon, baby.
Chris Cuomo.
Loose.
There's like a video of Chris Cuomo like in the Hamptons, drunk at a bar, and someone calls him Fredo, and he's like, "That's our N word. You can't say that to us." And he like,
Fredo?
yeah. You don't know about that?